Okay, everybody. We got the other camera, which is not surprising. Question is, are we going to keep the other camera? Are we going to keep video? Or is the whole thing going to fail catastrophically, as YouTube is wont to do? Still have the splash screen? Okay. Okay, that's what I thought. That's my standard camera that I usually use. And so the question is whether or not it's going to stay running. But since I moved the camera USB plug to a new port, I just switched it with the mouse port. Just taking the connection apart and putting it back together may be enough to have basically permanently repaired our little glitchiness that was going on. So we shall see what we shall see. So I got Rock, Rusty, and apparently 3 other people have got together. Hey, John. I know, I'm such a failure. You can talk to Eva and she'll commiserate with you on how inadequate I am at times. Oh. Anyhow, we'll give it another minute or two for some people to show up here. Hopefully that will have fixed the problem. We shall see. As the very short video from last week, hey, Graham, showed it snowed pretty good here last week. So the assumption is all the field work in this area is going to be shut down from the season. However, I talked with someone today who's got a project that will probably be accessible most of the winter. It's in Montana, but in a warmer area, not terribly far from here. Sort of thing that, about a half-day trip over there. Hello, Johnson from Wisconsin. That's a cute name. Johnson, if you have a picture or whatever of it, you can certainly email it to me. I don't have the picture in the picture thing set up here. Hey, Tricky. However, if you notice a little bit above, there's a guy named Rock Butcher on the thing. He's a professional exploration geophysicist who might be able to help there. So let's see if I've got it on this clipboard here. Wow. Okay. There it is. Let me just try typing it in. Well, that should be real easy, Rock. An engineer, huh? Yeah, that explains a lot. Okay, so Johnson. Okay, there's my email. Yeah, well, Jim, if you'd just been with us a couple weeks ago, you could have just been in camp and stared at him. What you can do, yeah, it smells pretty bad, doesn't it, Lars? What you can do, Johnson, is type it, but leave out the http:// part? Because it won't. Well, actually, I don't know. Will it just print it as text but not leave it as a hyperlink? You can't post a link because you're not a moderator, basically. You don't have moderator privileges. But if you wish to type in the address of the video, we can go take a quick look at it. And
I'll just put the name of the channel and the title of the video.
Yeah, I say we'll figure out a way so that we can. I get Jean-Francois. Yeah, that Eco Gold X can smell pretty weird. You think that's bad? You should try the stripping solution. Okay. So go ahead and try and get the information posted up here, Johnson, and Rock and I will take a quick look at it. By the way, ignore the heart. Somehow it got there weeks ago. Nobody can figure out how to get it off or even change it to like a smiley face. It just looks so weird. Anyhow, today we had a nice visit with somebody who was going through town and everything. And I saw them log on earlier. So if you don't mind me mentioning who you are, go ahead and give me an authorization to divulge a little bit of information there. Yeah. But said person decided to fix my problem with the Falcon. So we now have a functioning Falcon, and could come in very, very handy. And we thank him very much for that. And he also has some a property around this area that we'll probably be going to in a few weeks. It's not up here by Helena, but it's within 200 miles. And go take a peeky poo. And again, with everything that I do, the amount of information I can share is at the discretion of the claim holder, the other people involved, etc. So since right now I have no authorization, I can't say much more than that. But with any luck, we'll be able to put up some more fieldwork videos before the by Thanksgiving or something. And as such, we can hopefully keep things going a bit. When it comes to here, we have limited ability to do much of anything. Even, of course, the mill is basically frozen at this point. And so there's not much we can do. By the way, little one, we do need to go back out there. You left your little dropper bottles of stuff.
Yeah, I know. We need to go back out there as soon as the road is clear.
Yes, as soon as the road's clear. And I need to winterize the engines.
Uh-huh.
I need to get those pumps inside. Hopefully the one in the pregnant pond can be retrieved.
Yeah, I knew there was a lot more stuff that needed to be done out there, dude.
Yep. Well, yeah, but it wasn't critical. And aside from that, we don't have much to do there. We've got some interesting stuff that aren't directly gold mining related. That would explain a lot, Johnson. And as such, by the way, Johnson, I've been having some hardware problems. So if we go off the air, I'll be coming right back on as soon as I can get it all rebooted. Right now, I'm going to try switching, doing a little typing, And let's see, hit YouTube and then search for Johnson from Wisconsin. Okay, that didn't work. Johnson, Johnsson, from Wisconsin. Wisconsin. Yeah. Wow, I can't even find your freaking channel. No, I don't mean Senator Ron Johnson. Okay, my name is John Johnson. I come from Wisconsin. The songbook. Oh my goodness. Good idea. Okay, Dave.
You sure you spelled Wisconsin right?
Yeah, I checked it against, I've got 2 tabs basically, and I checked it. Okay. So Mr. Lodak has found it. Okay, Dave, I will do so then. Open link in new tab. Let's see what kind of. Yeah. The color's not terribly clear. That's weird to see an excavator bucket with no teeth on it. It does make it nice to see, though. That's pretty damn clear. Pretty damn clear structure there. What is the color in reality? The thing I'm seeing here looks pretty washed out. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty obvious where the structure was and everything, but I couldn't see the color too well. It could be a lot of things. Anyhow, uh, so I say Dave has a mine down about 100 miles south of here that we're going to be looking at and stuff. Brian, no, I have not used. Well, we've tried zinc a little bit with the Eco Gold X. The testing didn't seem to show a heck of a lot of effectiveness compared to the resins, so we didn't. I didn't say never. I'm just saying it's pretty rarely that everything. Really, for the knife edge buckets are normal autoplaster operations? Huh. I've seen them using mainly for cleaning out canals. But anyhow. So no, I have no real experience with zinc with Eco Gold X because the effectiveness of the resin was so good that we didn't feel it was that the testing improved anything. So we discontinued. But anyhow, so Dave is the one who gave us this Falcon. We appreciate that.
The MD20.
And yeah, latest model. And I say he also has a mine south of here, and we're going to blackish red with a hint of brown, very hard. Hello, Gavars. Lata Gavars Patroner. It's been a while since I've seen you. You say it's pretty dense. Did you check to see if it's magnetic? Is it attracted at all to a magnet? And if you take the bottom of a coffee cup, which is ceramic,
or an unglazed ceramic,
any kind of unglazed ceramic surface, and rub it on that, what color does it make on the ceramic thing? That if it's an iron mineral, it's going to streak red. Okay. So anyhow, judge it up from the preliminary information. Looks like Dave's mine should be pretty interesting to do the preliminary exploration and stuff. He has found some significant gold already. So we have a good idea that there's going to be something of substance there. But as to what details and this and that and the other, we'll worry about that as we look at different things and decide what's appropriate to put on the internet and what isn't. Thank you. And Lada Gavars Patroner, which would be your first name? Lada Gavars or what? I'm really not sure. What? It's probably a phrase anyway. Yeah, Rock. It was very interesting that it breaks into the larger class like that, and yet it's got clear fracture lines. That was kind of interesting. Oh, that's right, Anders. Oh yes, we're doing just fine, Anders. Weather, let's say the snow came in last week and shut down the field work.
Hi, Anders.
But it didn't catch us by surprise, kind of like it did last year. And the last day of mill preparations didn't have a hurricane blowing, so Eva did not suffer any injuries this year. I think she will attest to you that since last year, whenever there's snow on the ground, I tend to be very protective and helpful when it comes to trying to make sure she doesn't fall down.
Hello, Anders. Say hi to Joachim and Haley.
Yep. And when does the work start in spring? Around here, yes, Anders, Joachim. Yeah, Eva just said hi to Joachim and Haley. And oh my goodness, what's his? I'm so terrible with names, Anders. Susanna and Susanna. Okay. They said there's another train crash in northeast Oklahoma today.
Oh, good grief.
But anyhow, around here, the ground doesn't freeze very hard, very deep. By the time we can get back into the mountains, when the snow has melted enough to give us appropriate access, we have never seen a frozen ground issue. So that's basically our situation. The construction around here is designed for frost heave and such. They do things that we never worried about down in Tucson. And but aside from that, I say we haven't seen an issue with it here. Anders, will say hi to them, little one. Glad everyone is okay up there, Anders, and we're very comfortable that they have a nice place to stay and they're doing well. And I say it's a good thing. I think it's good for Haley to get out of her comfort zone a little bit. I think she's a little bit too timid sometimes, and this might have helped her quite a bit. So that's a good thing. So as I say, we've got that. For the lecture today, I've got something about the hybrid test we did. Now, we took a large sample of quartz that was known to carry gold. We crushed up about 300 pounds through the Stutenroth, and we split it all down to a sample, sent it off to the lab, got a number back. Then we did some other stuff and sent off another sample and got a different number back. And this is not very unusual when it comes to gold, because this is not nearly as fine a gold on average as the stuff from Montana B. And therefore, you assume that there's going to be potentially a significant nugget effect. So let's see what we got here. Huh. It's a cool artifact from World War II that Richard sent a picture of. Little worse for corrosion, but you'd expect that in a swamp like the Philippines. So anyhow, we did that, and then we did some tests where we were just testing that new sluice material, the vortex mat, and it was to the point where we're like, I don't know what's going on here. Well, things are looking a little weird. So we went and we did a test where we just ran fresh water with the remaining 70 pounds of that material. Now, here's what happened in percentages. I can't give you actual numbers, but I can give you percentages. And we can discuss what actually happened. Okay? Because it's, as usual, real life, hey, blind dude, is just annoying at times. So, pretty good. We started with 70 pounds. And it went through the sluice, which dumped into a bucket. Which was in a tub. Which had an overflow to a settling basin. Okay. And we collected this material, and this material. And what we found out was, by weight, this was 40%. This was 40. And this was 20% of the original weight. Okay? Now, assuming, for the sake of the argument, that the head grade was in fact accurate, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense with the other assays and stuff. So I'm adjusting the head grade to more of an average of the different assays. So giving that, this sluice recovered 38% of the gold, and these three together accounted for 13% of the gold, which, if I do my math right, comes up to somewhere around 51%. So 49% of the gold missing. Okay. Now this was done with fresh water, so Eco Gold X is not an answer. Okay. This, to me, indicates a couple of possibilities. Okay. First is the head grade was inaccurate. If that's inaccurate, everything else makes perfect sense. Okay? That can be from nugget effect or a number of things, but again, we've sent several samples off, 2 or 3, and they were split from a big sample, almost 300 pounds. So that's frustrating. The other percent, this might have been floating off. Okay? But considering I was catching some pretty fine stuff there, I find that a little bit suspicious. I'm not. And the other would be crystal lock. Now, the way we tested these samples here was through an Eco Gold X bottle roll. And those samples are still in their bottles, still potentially active.
He's coming. Hold on.
Yeah, you know. I mean, here's one of them right here. So, on a regular basis, we're just agitating them and letting them sit. So, assay. It's one of those things. I think that what we're doing is reasonable. I think this number one here is most likely to be throwing us off a bit. This is a 500 gram sample. There's a 500 gram sample here, 500 gram sample here, 500 gram sample here. And those numbers are fairly consistent, although the stuff in the tub shows the highest grade. And so my thought is that it may be very, very difficult to get a good assay. I believe Lawrence uses 15 gram samples, half assay ton, which if you have coarser gold is not really sufficient. However, if we go to something more like this for a sample size and make sure that we have, as Chris says, full dissolution, then things might improve a bit. The problem is this recovery here is not really enough for economics. And so I understand that completely, Rock. I say I'd prefer 500-gram samples. Would be nice. And if this is a consistent issue, then we might have to do something like this in a aggressive licks event, something that really will get to the gold, and go with a finer grind size, and then see what happens. But I just wanted to bring up how annoying these sort of things are, because again, you're dealing with finite particle sizes in small samples of something that's extremely valuable. And that just statistically is a pain in the ass. It's just not possible, mathematically and physically possible, to get nice, smooth statistics. That's why, like in placer, they usually use, 1 cubic yard or 1 ton as the sample. I mean, they will process, using a little trommel and vibrating sluice and stuff. They will, put a cubic yard through there or whatever, because with significant sized gold particles, you just can't use a small sample. It's not possible to get good results. It's like trying to do a population analysis of Montana and looking at 3 people. It just doesn't work. I didn't say a bulk placer sound. I said just a quick test. I say I'm not beating myself up, Rock. I want to point out to other people exactly what you're saying. It just is going to get annoying at times. Very annoying. What I'm most concerned about is creating a methodology that is consistent up here. Okay. So, for example, again, using an aggressive licks event, where we can know that any gold particle that we've got in here, as long as it's exposed to the solution, is going to be dissolved in the time that we run it, 24 hours, 72 hours, or whatever. Then we know that the solution grade would be a good representation of the original ore grade. Okay. Now, in this case, we got 2 times the solution to the ore, so we got to take the actual value in the solution and multiply it by 2 to get our ore value, because that's what he does. Rock. Yeah, assay. And this is why, if we can come up with I agree, Chris, hydrobromic acid, bromine, things like that. Okay, Rock. But there, say recently, Boss Recreational Mining suggested Eco Goldex and an oxidizing agent. And other people, Jean-Francois has one that, supposedly does the same thing. And work out a good assay technique for at least this ore, and it would probably work on a lot of other ores.
I want to find out if Eco Goldex works on pyrites. I'm curious.
It probably won't dissolve the pyrite. Again, it's going to be encapsulating. I would imagine so, Jean-Francois. That's the only reason I can think of hydrofluoric, but now you're getting into Teflon labware too. When you start using that kind of an aggressive...
Doesn't the local chemical dude use aqua regia digestion?
This guy doesn't digest. Okay. He just assays this. He does a he acidifies it, I believe, by adding, I don't know if it's nitric or what, but he takes this basic solution, gets it clear, and then there is an acidification going on. You don't use glass with hydrofluoric acid, Shaggy. Unless I'm severely mistaken, hydrofluoric acid goes right through glass. Yeah. And there you go. Exactly. That's why I have to use Teflon. Teflon is basically a carbon chain completely saturated with fluorine. And so the hydrofluoric acid can't add any fluorine. Okay. And so that's it. Yeah. Hydrofluoric, HF, hydrofluoric. Yeah. Hydrogen fluoride. Yep. So let's say to get into something like that, you need a very serious lab with very serious procedures. Thank you for your help, Rock. I appreciate it. So I think I've got it. I'm not terribly stressed out about it at this point. We got lots of time. But sometime when you're not doing anything in the day, just give me a call. We can chat on it. Okay. I can always, I'd like to improve my technique what I can, but I agree. Half assay ton is not a very good sample for hard rock. I'd say I was actually probably spoiled by Montana B because it's so fine that it actually gives good statistics with fire assay with a half assay ton.
Well, I do a full assay ton when I do assays, but I can't grind it as fine as I'd like to.
Yeah, but anyhow, I say so. It is a problem. Half assay ton is not a good thing. This would be the equivalent of calculator. 500 grams. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 33 assay tons. So statistically, if you can dissolve the gold, this will give you much better statistics. But you have to assume, number one, it's not crystal locked, and number two, whatever you've got in there can dissolve the gold in the time that you give it to dissolve the gold. For example, if the Eco Goldex could dissolve, I don't know, let's say 10 mesh gold particles in a bottle roll in a week, then you just roll them a week. No problem. And
Dylan apparently forgot what my birthday is because he just texted me to ask.
Really? Yeah, it's not even close to your birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, yours is very close to my birthday, so I can remember yours. And mine's first.
Knowing Ryan, he doesn't remember either, but he put a message on his phone or something.
Yep. So, I say that may be what we have to do with this ore. Another possibility is that once we get more experience, we can simply use a concentration technique like the sluice, like paint, whatever, something that we know is going to concentrate it so well, and then fire assay the concentrates. That's another way you can do that. However, any kind of gravity concentration is not going to be 100% effective. And quite often it's not even close. But if you're constantly running 45 to 55% recoveries, then you can take the gravity results and use that as a proxy for the head grade with reasonable confidence. Yeah. See, that's it, Jean-Francois. I think it's probably got an oxidizer or something that accelerates it. But this is the sort of thing, for example, the E-Eco Gold X, let's assuming that it's, we can't just, accelerate the regular Eco Gold X that we have. Okay. That could be used for laboratory testing without too much issue, because it's very small quantities, you know. Yeah, but your gold leaf, Brian, according to my wonderful extensive research on the internet, is running about 1/10 of a micron in thickness. And the gold from Montana B is roughly 50 to 100 times as thick. And the stuff we're recovering here is more in the neighborhood of 700 times as thick. Gold leaf is amazing in terms of how thin it is.
Beautiful stuff.
So getting the gold leaf to dissolve is very useful. But see, now Jean-Francois is looking for, he's researching something called glycine stripping, and that may work really well too. It's also relatively non-hazardous, which is very helpful. And that's what I'm saying. We may wind up doing a little more research on something that's more aggressive in dissolving gold, simply for the testing purposes. When then you deal with, yes, thiourea has another possibility. That's, say, subject to doing some testing here. But we may work on, again, something more aggressive than Eco Gold X. It would be nice in a laboratory situation if you could be confident that your gold is going to dissolve in, say, a 1 hour or 2 hour bottle roll, certainly a 24-hour bottle. You put it in one day, you come back the next, and it's dissolved. At that point, we could theoretically take it to the local lab, and for $25, we can get a precise analysis, and we've got a much, much bigger sample. You're getting ready to try out some pure light resins. Okay. Let us know how that works, Naudius. Yeah, we've got a lot of Prussian blue with some of our stuff we did. But anyhow, this is what makes it kind of fun, but kind of annoying too, because you're trying to figure out methodologies for everything instead of just trying to figure out how to get the gold out of that rock, or finding rock that's got enough gold that you can make money getting it out. Yeah, exactly, Brian. I say, all I'm saying is that you have to take that into account, that it's so much thinner than the actual gold particles that you're dissolving. So if, say, your gold leaf dissolves in, what was it, 30 seconds, 45 seconds or something? Yeah, Naudius. And then extrapolate that. Again, if your gold particles are 50 times thicker and it only took you 30 seconds, well, then you're looking at 25 minutes, And what did you mix with your Eco Gold X, Lars? Yeah, I think we got the S version ourselves right now. That's what we asked for. 16 seconds. Okay. So again, 700 times 0.25. Okay. So 175 minutes, that's not a problem. Again, anything less than 24 hours is fine. You know, anything less than 12 hours is fine, because you can put it in the bottle, start the bottle roll, come back the next day, and extract the liquid. And that is sufficient for most purposes. Again, since we're not doing the final analysis ourselves on these solutions, we're not going to get an instant result anyway. So, and say it's not something that really matters. If we can get it 24-hour cycle for digestion, no problem. We seem to come up with a pretty good solution to that. So, that's it gets annoyingly complicated when you're not dealing with a highly researched technique like cyanide's been going for over a century. Lion water did not work to elute our resin, Lars. Oh, some of the big mines are definitely using resins. Absolutely. But it's a lot of it is ore dependent. But EGX, again, is not a normal lixiviant. I don't know of any big mine that's using it. It's something quite new. As such, it'd be like, using cyanide in the 1880s. Everyone's kind of figuring their way around it. And that's kind of what we're doing here. I am not confident that the people who make it understand it very, very thoroughly. I'm not using Eco Gold X in a heap leach, but I am using it in a vat leach, basically. We put it on a pad, let it drain through. And in terms of thiourea, we went and, was it 50-pound sack for $250 or something from the local Chemical Montana?
Yeah,
is where we got it from. They had to order it. It was about a week, and I think it was about $250 for a 50-pound sack.
If you buy it by the trainload, it's cheaper.
Yeah, you can get Chinese thiourea cheap by the carload or by the container load. So it's not that hard a chemical to get a hold of. It's not outrageously expensive. Okay. Yeah, Chemical Montana here in Helena, they have kind of a reasonable selection of industrial chemicals, but they can also order stuff. And because it's already coming in shipped with other chemicals, you don't pay the kind of huge penalties for the transport of hazmat or whatever like you would. Like the Eco Gold X, a third of the price is the shipping. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's not too hard to find. It's like getting a good price, shop around a little bit. I forgot what it was by the container load. I mean, if you wanted like a 10-ton container of it or something, it was pretty inexpensive. It was what, like $200 a ton or something?
Yeah, I think it was like $300 or $400 a ton.
$300 or $400 a ton is her recollection. Yeah.
By the rail car.
Yeah. It gets pretty cheap if you buy in sufficient quantities. Of course, that's just an outrageous quantity for us. But
well, that's where you buy it in the cheap quantity and you start selling it to other people marked up.
Yeah, that's why we bought it in a 50-pound sack. It's easy enough to put in 2 5-gallon buckets and seal them up, and we got enough for a long time. So that's our experience buying thiourea. Of course, as with anything else, the price last year may be substantially less than the price this year because everything is going through the roof. And Chris is right to say we don't know what's in EcoGold X with precision. It's kind of like it's got some of this and some of that and some of that and some of the other, and then we blend it together and throw it in a furnace and let it cook and do things, and then we bring it out and crush it up again. You know. We use sulfuric acid, Nautilus, not hydrochloric. I don't know how well the hydrochloric will work with the thiourea. The thiourea is a sulfur compound, basically. And it's also going to create a lot of fumes, whereas the sulfuric acid does not. It's very easy to handle, nothing really in the way of fumes. So I would try the sulfuric acid first. Okay. And I don't know about molarity, but you're talking equals see, there's one, yeah, about 10% sulfuric acid is the base. You take your sulfuric acid, dilute it 10-to-1 with water, then add your thiourea. And that seemed to work just fine. But it only starts working once you elevate the temperature a little bit. About what temperature did you start seeing it?
About 35, you'll start seeing
35°C?
Yeah, I start seeing plating right around body temperature. So
okay.
34, 35.
Okay, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 35°C or about 100 Fahrenheit is where we can start detecting the gold coming into solution. It may
start before then. I have never tested it below 30.
She says she's never tested it below 30.
You told me not to.
No. Hey, Nautilus, are you familiar with our copper strip testing method for gold in stripping solution? Because if not, you're going to want to do that. It makes life a whole lot better than shooting with your eyes closed. Okay, Nautilus. Take a clean strip of copper. I just have some thin copper sheet that I cut into little strips. Take a clean one, and we re-clean them by simply dipping them into nitric acid and then rinsing them again. And that'll peel the gold off. But anyhow, you take that copper strip and you put it in your stripping solution, and if you've got a lot of gold in solution, in 30 seconds, you pull it out, and boy, you're going like, yep, there's a lot of gold in that solution. On the other hand, we consider if we don't have any detectable plating after 5 minutes of circulating solution over it, we consider it stripped. Okay. And then again, you can just take those strips, dip them in nitric acid. We just have a test tube of it. We just keep using it again and again, and then rinse it off. And that gives us reusable. I don't know. I presume we're going to get about thousands of tests out of $5 worth of copper sheet. Okay. Literally thousands of tests. We have yet to use up a strip, and we've only got about 10 or 12, So say that works very well. The copper precipitates the gold out of the stripping solution. Not sure how well it would work on other solutions or whatever, but I think it'll work on a lot of them. And that works pretty darn well on the stripping solution, and it's real time.
I really want to test and see how well it works on pregnant solution.
Go ahead.
I mean, we got silver plating onto copper out of our pregnant solution in the tank.
You see, that's my concern, is you may get. Did you make any progress on reusing the resin? No. We have given up for the season on worrying about that. We tried, it didn't seem to work too well, and we just focused on other stuff. And we just saving the old resin. We have no idea what we're going to do with it. We may regenerate it later. We may ash it later. We may trash it later. I have no idea. So, as of now, we've had no significant results. I mean, by significant, I mean we got it to absorb 10% of the gold it did the first time, which means that we might as well just use fresh resin. If you want to play with it, Nautilus, and give us the results, I might be able to get you some. No problem. Okay. We should be able to work out something there. Because again, I only have so much time, so much energy, and so much knowledge. During the season, we're pretty damn busy. During the winter, we're still busy. We did not get bored last winter, did we, little one? No. Yeah, exactly. We got plenty, Nautilus. We use 350 grams per cartridge.
333.
333.
3 cartridges equals 1 kilo.
Yeah. No, 3 cartridges would be equal to 1 kilo then.
Yeah. That's why I chose that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get you some. Not a problem. How much is a kilo? Plenty. Don't be bashful and ask it. For us, it's really not terribly valuable. Okay, so we could send you a kilo or something like that. We could. How much resin fits in one of those little tubes?
I think it was like 30 or 50.
I don't know. See, we got a lot of these tubes like this, and we could package it in these for shipment, or we could put some else and then put it in Ziploc. You don't want secondary containment because there is some liquid involved there. Yeah, it didn't work, Tricky. We tried it. Absolutely. Yeah, it didn't do a good job. Okay. We tried it. Didn't seem to work with the resin. Now that we're using Max Water 104133, don't know how it would work with Pure Gold or other particular resins. Okay. Again, this is where, if one person's working on one thing and one person's working on another, we can all make progress a lot faster. Also, everybody will approach things differently. And we can, go from there. Yeah, I say we did not get a good strip at all, Tricky. Do you remember with Tricky's 3-part? That didn't use thiourea, did it? Did it, Tricky? Because I don't think it used the thiourea, and we got to step 3, and it really wasn't doing much. And as I recall, I'd have to look at the lab notes and stuff. But I know it just didn't seem to work. I think that's when we went to the Purolite method, which used the thiourea, and that did a good job of pulling the gold off of the resin. Yeah, so does even Nautilus. So that's kind of what we're at. Yeah. I presume you've got my email, Nadius. I have no idea, Jeff. Are you the one that I can't reply to your comments on my videos? I think it's you. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's fine, Nadius. And just get me a mailing address and stuff. And we'll see about getting some packed up and shipped off to you. And then just, try anything you want on it and let us know how it works. Because and this will be stripped resin, stuff we've already stripped. So again, to us, it's a very little value. We're not reusing it at this time. We just stockpiling it because why not? Oh, and this stuff may have been frozen once too.
A genuine remote work opportunity. I'm gonna keep that one.
You just started playing with elution. You were eluting activated charcoal, or were you eluting the? Okay, Jeff. Were you trying to elute activated charcoal, or was that somewhere in your elution process? No problem, Tricky. I don't know what the shipping to to the Philippines would be. So anyhow, Tim, where does okay, so you started. Now, what is the solution that you're using to dissolve the gold? That's very important, because it's a combination of the dissolution solution and the elution solution and to get a total solution to the solution issue. Say if you're using cyanide, it's one thing. If you're using some of the Eco Goldex is actually a cyanide complex. Okay, Lynn B. Put it in the chat. See what it is. With the Eco Goldex, I haven't eluted from charcoal. Are you using heat? Because in the process we're using, temperature is very critical to this. It really doesn't work at room temperature. You don't have to get it anywhere near pressure cooker temperatures, though. We're getting it to, what are we using now? 55C?
55C.
55C. 80C? Okay, yeah, we're not going anywhere near that high. I'm not sure whether the acid thiourea solution would work on the charcoal or not, but it would be worth trying.
Yeah.
I
would like to try using charcoal at some point in our process to see how it works.
Yeah. You need about, 1 part battery acid and 10 parts water to get your pH right. And then, let's see, we're using 3, 4 plus 14. Okay, so we got about 13 or 14. And I remember it was about 1 kilogram. So for about a 75 or 100 grams of thiourea per liter of solution on that. And that's working good on the resin. Not sure how it'll work on the carbon, but it would be nice to know.
That's something I wanted to test and see if we could use carbon.
Yeah. And yeah, the shipping on some of this stuff just gets really ridiculous. Okay, Naudius. Tim, it looks like Naudius can test the procedure for you using the thiourea testing. Is that correct, Naudius? Okay, so there you go, Tim. This is our little community here. Somebody comes up with an idea. Somebody says, I'll do that. I'll check it out. Whatever comes in real handy. So Naudius is, see, he's asking just gold, or do you want silver? You know, what is it you're trying to recover? And then he'll get back with us and we'll go from there. Did you see my email earlier, Lynn B? I suspect this may be a catfishing thing here. Here's my email.
So why do you put?
Because I get stuff all the time anyhow. Okay, you can send something to there. Make sure it's text only, not attachments or anything like that. And I will take a look at it and go from there. Okay, so you're looking at gold and silver, so you're stripping electronics and then absorbing it onto carbon. If you're stripping electronics, have you tried a direct precipitation on something, or just direct electroplating out of solution? That might be, you're going to have fairly high concentrations if you're stripping electronics in many cases. And if you are direct electroplating, may be a more efficient method. You may have to increase your pH to get more conductivity to make the process work, but that may make it a whole lot simpler. Because if you're just dissolving gold and silver from electronic parts, then run it through an electroplating cell on an electrode that you can then dissolve, boom, there you go. In the case of gold and silver, if you were to use just a silver electrode, just a silver foil or something, or a silver, thing, then you just put that in nitric acid. That'll dissolve the electrode and the silver and almost anything else and leave the gold. Then you can neutralize and precipitate the silver out of the nitric acid, or you could just keep using the nitric acid until it's all used up and then precipitate it out with copper.
And then you can always get your copper back too, and your nitric acid back.
Okay, but are you reusing the solution, Tim? If you're just recycling that solution, you add some Eco Gold X back into it and do it again, then you didn't lose that 20%. Do you see what I'm saying? I understand you're losing 20, you're not recovering 20% that cycle, but if you're recycling it, not a problem. Also, whether you're using carbon or resin, if you get that 80% out first, and then you're scavenging the other 20%, it's more efficient in many cases. Yeah, you stay safe, Tricky. I did you see my last video from the breakthrough thing? That's some sketchy crap there. I'm not going through that hole. I'm finding another way.
Yep, I said no.
You know, but anyhow, that's you got to look at all the possibilities and how they work together, Tim, as to what's your most efficient thing. If you're not recovering 100% out of solution, but you can reuse the solution, why not? Just recycle it. Stripping decrease your, yes, but can you just replenish a little bit? For example, we found our stripping solution depletes apparently the thiourea. And so it's appearing to us that we need to add 50 to 100 grams of thiourea for every cartridge that we strip, or something to that effect. And
one of these days, if I ever get a decent testing budget, we'll find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, working on that. The O2 monitor I have is out of calibration too. That needs to be taken care of this winter. I'm in that particular case, I'm less worried about the O2 than the SiO2 on my head, especially as that frickin' hillside is unstable too, in my never to be humble opinion. And I'm not.
I told you, you ain't going in that hole.
I'm not as concerned in theory about just the stuff right around the hole. I can timber that up. But if that whole hillside comes down, would the timbering hold up? So, as I say, we have an idea that completely eliminates the necessity of accessing through that hole. You know, I understand, Chris. It's a 4-gas analyzer, but it's out of calibration, and I don't know if I can. You know, I might be able to send it back and they'll recalibrate it for $30 or something, or what. But I need to contact the manufacturer and figure that one out. I mean, right now when I found it and I say, okay, I turn it on and it said that the oxygen content was 0.1% in the back of the minor bago. It's like, yep, it's ventilating right now, Brian. That hole is open, and in theory, it's ventilating right now. But we shall see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got the H2S. But the situation I'm most concerned about is ground control. That looks, I mean, the word sketchy is just a little bit of an understatement there. I was hoping, see, if that was a normal sized tunnel there at that point, where you're only, looking at something 4 feet wide, getting into good solid rock should be a lot easier. It's not 4 feet wide. It's more like 10 feet wide. Yep. I don't know, Tricky. I need to contact the manufacturer and go from there. It may be fairly simple, or it may just have to get a new one or whatever. So I got plenty of time. I ain't going back there for months and months. And when we can get back up there, we got other stuff to do first. Take care, Tricky. Hug the kids.
Kiss the babies.
Drager. Oh no, Chris, it's a cheap Chinese one. You know how that is. I know Drager's a manufacturer, but are you talking using Drager tubes or an actual meter? I've used Drager tubes too, but that would get more expensive. On the other hand, it is entirely, you don't have to worry about calibration or anything. It'll just, for those of you who are not familiar with the Drager tube, they're glass tubes, break off ends. They have a chemical reactant in them. Did you find any good socks at Walmart's? Little one. No, she said. Probably have to get those in Great Falls again.
North 40 in Great Falls. Or Carhartt socks if you can find them.
Okay, this is a... Let's see. Yeah.
All things Walmart.
It is a gas detector. It's a gas detector brand gas detector, apparently. Product stuff. Let's see. Thank you. Pretty anonymous so far. Working principle. Chinese English interface. That is kind of hilarious. Manufacturer. One would think.
Well, that's your problem is you're trying to apply rational standards to irrational things again.
No, one would think that there would be some indication as to what the manufacturer
Yeah, why would you think that?
Oh,
it came from some factory farm in China.
Well, I know, little one, but it's because it's required by law.
Yeah, maybe it's not required by law in China.
Let's see. Avoid direct sunlight, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's hilarious.
To apply American standards to something.
Well, it's sold in America. That is pretty freaking hilarious. I see no identifying marks whatsoever. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Little transformer brick. I'm wondering if it's got anything on it. AC/DC adapter. Oh, it's made in China. No manufacturer.
They're probably sold for $1.79 each on Ollie. Just saying.
Let's see. Oh, it was George's birthday yesterday, Tricky Dicky says.
Happy birthday, George.
2 years old. Aww. Come here, little one. Come here.
Oh.
Happy birthday, George.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear George. Happy birthday to you. I find that quite amusing. Let's see if I go to Amazon, if it has a theoretical.
I'm telling you, you'll probably discover that you can buy it on Alibaba for $1.79 a piece.
Let's see.
From any one of 17,000 manufacturers.
HZXVOGEN portable gas detector. Hisvagen? What a name. Oh my goodness. So it's a Hisvagen.
It's a toboggan?
Hisvagen. HZV.
Hervagen?
You're welcome, Tricky. So anyhow, as I say, I have no idea. I may just have to get another detector or something. But yeah. Anyhow, back to Draeger detectors. Back in the day, before all these fancy microelectronics and stuff, they have a tube and it's got a reactant in there so that as gas is drawn through the tube, it'll give you a color change depending upon what you're trying to detect. For example, if you're looking for oxygen, they have a reactant that reacts with oxygen and changes color at a known rate. Then you have this little pump that would pump at a certain speed, and you would take the tube, break the ends off, stick it in the detector, and run it for a particular amount of time. And then on the side of the tube, there's a scale. And wherever that color change stopped, that's the amount of the gas that you are detecting. And that's how a Draeger tube detector used to work. Hello, Daniela. Well, I suspect Daniela is a bot. But anyhow, the advantage of Draeger tubes is, first of all, they didn't require microelectronics before microelectronics existed. They're very reliable. They're, as simple to use, and they don't need recalibration like this thing does. They work quite well, and it's a reasonably short period of time, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever. If it was a toxic gas or something that can really harm you, you'd probably notice a change happening pretty quick, and then go, time to beat feet. And say, I don't know. It's not the sort of thing that you would use in an imminently dangerous. How much does a new one cost? This particular 4-gas detector was $100. Okay. Thank you, Chris. That was what I was suspecting. Okay, let me see.
I believe it said something in the troubleshooting on that to send back to factory to recalibrate or something.
There was something like, there is a calibration procedure, but it requires known environments. Let's see. Jean-Francois. 2 rocks. I'm thinking that may be a garnet, Jean-Francois. That big one, I think, is a garnet. The last one, not so sure. But the first one, I'm pretty sure is a garnet. If Rock was here, I could forward it on to him. Do you want me to forward these to Rock Butcher there so he can take a look at them? So Lynn B did actually send me an email. Let's see. Well, it's text only, so it may be a human being here. Probably reply text only, just because I'm curious. Okay, Jean-Francois, let me go to you.
The question is, what did
Okay.
it say?
You can look at it later.
Okay.
And they request anonymity, so to speak. So, yeah. Okay, so let's see. I'll forward this. No. Keys. There we go. Come on. Okay. JF is curious. Okay, Jean-Francois. I forwarded it to Rock. You're welcome, Linby. I gave it a quick read. I'll see about responding to it tomorrow. What are we talking about today, big man? Well, we were talking a lot about some chemistry of the dissolution and recovery from solution. Alignment adjust back to spec. Measurement against. Okay, then I guess it would be an alignment, John. But it was said in the manual here, I believe it's to calibrate. So I can't be held guilty because people who won't even give me their names. Let's see. Calibration settings. 4.7, page 8. Calibration gas. Under the menu list, choose the zero adjust, press the power key, and enter the setting interface. You can select the channels of combustible gases. And place the gas in the same concentration of the detector and the calibration value in the sealed gas tank. The calibration value can be adjusted by increasing or reducing. So I guess that would be alignment, but they use the word calibration, so that's why I did. I'm not knowledgeable on these things. Hey, Jim. Forensic detectors. Do you have a link for that or anything, Jim? Well, it does have an adjustment thing in there, basically, where you put it in a, I guess for the oxygen, you put it in a nitrogen atmosphere and hit the proper keystroke sequence, and then we'll say, okay, this is 0, and then it will adjust it to where it says, okay, that's 0. Thank you, Jim. Oh, so assay, but yeah, it's months in the future. I'm not terribly worried about it just yet. Say we're gonna try an end around on that one anyhow before we go underground. Don't
want you going in that hole in the first place.
Yeah, maybe what we do, Chris.
God strongly dislikes that hole.
Yeah, Eva is not happy with that hole. Just a minute here. I see a silver hard hat behind me.
Hi, everybody. Jean-Francois, the goddess loves the books. Send more books. I need to read them on my laptop because they're EPUB files, and until I get my Kindle to understand EPUB, which I'm working on. Hi, Brian. Hi, Kodak. Hi, Chris. Yeah, $425 on the low end. Ouch. That's just ouchy. Anywho, it has been a remarkably quiet week in news this week. Unless, of course, you're interested in Governor Ron DeSantis' fashion footwear choices. Now, the goddess will say that apparently Governor DeSantis has very, very good taste in cowboy boots. Lucchese cowboy boots. They are a very, very good high quality brand. And they make a very, very good high quality cowboy boot with internal heel lifts. Fascinating, really. Also fascinating that Governor DeSantis, who, by the way, lives in Florida, not Texas, apparently never wore cowboy boots before he went on the campaign trail. The goddess is wondering when he's going to get a hat to match the boots. But, I am not his fashion advisor, so that may be well. Yeah, Chris, I was pretty sure that they'd be, yeah. Everybody else's definition of cheap is different from mine, okay? That's as far as we're going there. Hi, Graham. But that's where we are this week, is people are discussing the scandal of the fact that Ron DeSantis claims to be a very confident 5'11". Public record shows that he may be 5'9". The boots definitely have internal lifts, which put him marginally over 6 feet. And he gets very annoyed when people tease him about it. Gotta have a sense of humor if you're gonna wear lifts in your shoes, dudes. I mean, that's just a thing, you know? Hi, Kodak. Be that as it may. A few little notes on the economy are in order here. People are questioning whether Yellen the felon is going to produce a Santa rally or a debt crisis. Well, considering that the U.S. is slated to borrow $1.5 trillion with the T in debt this and next quarter, after borrowing $1 trillion with the T last quarter, I'm thinking the Santa rally may be a little bit optimistic here. Just saying. And if you haven't checked out usdebtclock.org lately, they're now putting really cool memes on the page, and it changes every day. It has been so fun to watch that part. And, the rapidly spinning deep red numbers in the background are really kind of scary. Just saying. Just saying, kind of scary there. Oh, and Lord Malarkey, to answer the housing crisis, has ordered that $45 billion with a B dollars be stripped from various other programs of various types in various three-letter agencies and given to property owners and developers so that they can use that money to refurbish empty office and commercial space and turn it into living space. Yeah. Okay. This may or may not work very well. We shall see what we shall see. And in case you missed it, there's some sort of an Arctic vortex thingy that's affecting everywhere because climate change. So there is that too. Meanwhile, in mining news, there actually is sort of kind of mining news this week. Panama Electoral Court says it cannot hold a mine referendum. So we're back to the story of Panama here. For anybody who missed it, First Quantum Minerals had a flagship copper mine, a very large one in Panama. It's like one of the largest employers in the entire United country. And everything was going well, and then the government decided they wanted more money, and then First Quantum said, well, wait a minute here, we need to think about this. And then the government said, well, fine, you have to stop. And then this past week, the government said, well, we'll let the people decide. We're going to have a referendum. So that's catching you up to speed here. Panama's electoral court said it cannot organize a referendum over a flagship copper mine owned by First Quantum Minerals Limited, as requested by President Laurentino Cortizo on Sunday, because that would require Congress to first pass a law. The goddess can actually get along with that. You should not be regulating in place of legislating, okay? At this moment, there are no conditions to organize the intended popular consultation. That's a nice way of putting it. The Electoral Authority said in a statement Monday, also citing logistics and other legal reasons that prevent the organization of a referendum. The government on Monday afternoon said it planned to introduce a bill to Congress on the referendum. Thank you, Joe Biden. And I bet if, Lord forbid, Professor Hardrock was hit by a bus, you, along with all the other males who flirt with me, would disappear real freaking fast. Okay? We all know this. In its statement, the authority highlighted that preparing the referendum would imply an additional effort to organizing the May 5th general election, when the country will elect its president and legislators. Panama's dollar bonds paired losses with notes due in 2036, slumping 1.4 cents to 95.7 cents on the dollar, after trading lower earlier in the day, according to indicative pricing compiled by Bloomberg. The debt was the worst performer in emerging markets on Monday. Well, no shit, Sherlock. First Quantum shares closed 28% lower, the biggest drop in 26 years, a day after Cortizo said a national vote on the mine will be held December 17th in an effort to quell massive civil unrest over the project. The call for a referendum cast into doubt the future of one of the world's biggest and newest copper mines. Cobre Panama has become the center of political debate as the future supply of copper has become a hot topic worldwide. The Electoral Court statement put in question whether there will be a referendum. That prompted Roger Tejada, a high-ranking official, to prepare legislation that would allow the referendum to take place on December 17th, according to a post by the government on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. The mining contract was going to have a major impact on fiscal accounts, producing the equivalent of 0.9% of GDP in revenues for the government. Without those funds, Panama will likely breach its deficit ceiling of 3% of GDP. The goddess is having deficit ceiling envy. Only 3% GDP? Said Ramiro Blasquez, head of research and strategy at Bank Trust and Company in Buenos Aires. Yeah, a very, very major copper project that is really having a few problems right now. Not going to be the only mining project that has a few problems right now. We've got all kinds of things going on in the mining world in that regard. Just saying. Hedge funds are piling into uranium stocks because they're set for a dramatic rise. Now, why are we going to have a dramatic rise in uranium stocks? Inquiring minds want to know, so we're going to see what the people are saying, at least. Several hedge funds managers have started ratcheting up their exposure to uranium stocks as they bet on significant price gains. Terra Capital's Matthew Langsford, Segra Capital's Arthur Hyde, Argonaut Capital Partners Barry Norris, and Anaconda Invest Renaud Salaire are among managers building bets on uranium companies such as Cameco Corporation, Energy Fuels Incorporated, Your Energy Incorporated, and NextGen. Langsford, who runs a 175 million Australian dollar natural resources fund at the Sydney-based Terra Capital, says the outlook for uranium prices means the equities could see a dramatic upside, 50%, 100%, possibly more. More than a decade after the shock of Fukushima led a number of countries to review their reliance on nuclear power, it cemented itself as a vital plank in the transition toward a low carbon future. Really now. That's driven up uranium valuations, with prices having risen 125% since 2020. The International Energy Agency estimates that global nuclear capacity needs to double by mid century from 2020 levels to help the world meet net zero commitments. Double by 2050 to meet net zero commitments. In a regulatory environment where not only is it damn near impossible to get a nuclear plant permitted, they're doing everything they can to close the existing ones. And the goddess just has to wonder who we made this commitment to. Of course, since the Pentagon is no longer talking about the UFOs that they were going to be telling us all about this month, that just kind of got memory hold. Maybe we made a commitment to aliens. Just saying. You know? Wherever we made a net zero commitment somewhere. That target is underpinned by demand in Europe, Asia, and Africa for nuclear reactors. Old facilities are getting their lifespans extended, while China is continuing to build out its nuclear fleet, all of which is fanning demand for the uranium to power those plants. Such investments remain controversial. Germany famously wound down its nuclear energy program after 2011, as then Chancellor Angela Merkel responded to the global trauma caused by the Fukushima meltdown. Global trauma. I think Fukushima probably had a whole lot more trauma.
I have a question.
Yes?
If you have a net zero commitment, does that mean there is no commitment because the commitment is net zero?
This is a good question. We'll put that right up there with, if you think you're transgender and you decide to have sex reassignment surgery, does that not make you transphobic? We'll put that in the same category. The decision has since drawn criticism, with Germany subsequently finding itself deeply reliant on high-emitting fossil fuels supplied by Russia. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Uranium's appeal has grown as Europe works to wean itself off Russian gas. However, with Russia sitting on roughly 8% of the world's recoverable conventional uranium sources, the West has found itself needing to perform an even bigger energy supply pivot. We're mostly focused on uranium miners in public markets, Hyde, a portfolio manager at Segra Capital, said in an interview. For the supply and demand of this market to balance, we need new assets to come online. If you're going to insulate the US, Europe, and Canada from the global fuel cycle, which is heavily dependent on Russia and China, the best way to do that is to build new mines, new conversion capacity, and new enrichment capacity. Well, another helpful step might be actually allowing or encouraging the US and Europe and Canada to actually start mining those resources that they have, Oh dear. Nuclear power doesn't emit carbon dioxide and has even been defined as green in the European Union's taxonomy of sustainable assets. Well, glory be. But it comes with a number of risks. There are two main barriers to it being considered a serious contender in the race to net zero: skepticism around the safety of reactors and radioactive waste disposal, and cost, said Nilushi Karunaratne of Bloomberg NEF. That skepticism is part of the reason why the number of reactors in operation today has changed little since the immediate fallout of the 2011 Fukushima accident, as retirements have outpaced new facilities coming online. The two main barriers to it being considered as a serious contender in the race to net zero. Science denial is just so annoying. Uranium goes through several stages of processing before it's ready to use as fuel in nuclear power stations. After it's mined and milled, the uranium ore is converted into a fluorine gas, which is then enriched and made into fuel rods. These get loaded into reactors, after which fission that releases energy occurs. The whole process, called the nuclear fuel cycle, can take years and may rely on supply chains that stretch across several countries. Hyde says political sensitivity around those supply chains is set to drive the West to look for new ways to achieve independence. Norris, who's the founder and chief investment officer of Argonaut, says he bought shares in Cameco and Kazatomprom this year. Once governments wake up to how useless weather-dependent power is, they will go next to nuclear. Should have gone to nuclear first, all the way, said Norris, who has shorted solar, wind, and hydrogen stocks. Not all uranium stocks are equal, though, and nearly a 30% gain in the global ex-uranium ETF this year has some hedge fund managers looking for opportunities to short companies they think are less likely to do well. Oh, that's a little rude. Salur of Anaconda, for example, says he's now looking into shorting Cameco Corporation as a hedge after it gained more than 70% this year. But he's long miners, including Energy Fuels and UR Energy, he said. Segras Hyde said there's some relatively lazy capital investing in a compelling macro story without doing much company-level work. And as the number of buyers grows, some will target the wrong stocks. Many of the nuances of the nuclear fuel markets remain misunderstood. Nuclear may become the key driving force in the decades-long energy transition. New demand in Europe, Asia, and Africa for nuclear reactors and old reactor lifetime extensions aligned to net zero aspirations and the continued build-out of China's nuclear fleet have driven spot uranium prices 125% higher since 2020. So, yeah. Apparently, there is a very mild possibility somewhere in here that reality is beginning to dawn in the energy sector. The goddess is not going to hold her breath on this issue, okay? We're totally not holding our breath on this issue, because if these people had had any sense, they would have been all about the nukes a whole lot better than they have been. But you never know. Just saying. Well, that's interesting. BlackRock says buy metals companies if you care about the climate. What are they up to? Investors are missing a big opportunity to profit from the energy transition because they have outdated views of the metals and mining industry, according to one of the sector's most influential investors. Our view, from speaking to our clients and investors at large, is the opportunity within this space has been massively overlooked. Evie Hambro, global head of thematic and sector investing at BlackRock, said in an interview. If you're focused on sustainability, if you're focused on the energy transition, don't overlook this area. There's huge value opportunity. Really now? Hambro said recent changes in the mining industry meant most investors needed to update their view of the sector. He pointed to a growing focus on reducing carbon emissions in metal production, a more disciplined approach to spending than in previous booms, and a rapid decrease in the cost of capital as governments throw money at miners amid concerns about supply security. The goddess wishes our government would start throwing money at miners, or better yet, just throw all the regulatory jihad to the side of the road. Industry executives, analysts, and specialist investors have for several years been predicting a bull market as the shift to a lower carbon economy drives a wave of demand for the metals needed for electric grids, electric vehicle batteries, and solar panels. Yet while prices rallied sharply in the rebound from COVID, they have stagnated the past year. The story isn't about now. The story is about what's going to happen over the next 10 to 15 years, Hambro said, arguing the sector is undervalued. Well, yeah, the sector is undervalued. If you want to rebuild the copper industry globally, you couldn't do it for the market cap of the copper companies out there today. There's a huge gap in that regard. Hambro was an influential critic of miners overspending in the last boom, and he doesn't want them to restart the era of profligacy, even as he predicts a coming supply shortage. We're not saying companies must go out there and build. We don't want them to verge away from capital allocation models that helped rebuild trust within the sector over the last 8 to 9 years. BlackRock is also calling on metals companies to invest in decarbonization. Well, now. Really? People pay premiums for companies that are lower carbon producers, said Olivia Markham, who manages BlackRock's mining investments together with Hambro. If you look at the U.S. steel industry, which is a much lower carbon intensity versus European steel industry, there's a higher premium that's paid for that, she said. If we're just simply stopping burning fossil fuels for the production of energy and continuing to burn them for the production of materials, and we need a lot more materials, we're not going to solve the challenge we face. A rare common sense approach. The fact that the rare common sense approach is being pushed by BlackRock, of all people, is interesting. The goddess is intrigued by this. Can't trust them as far as you can throw them anyway. Just saying. Our coming zombie economy. Finally, somebody is calling it what it is, a zombie economy. One of the more sobering thoughts at the moment is, as bad as things are, we haven't even hit the full recession yet. And when it comes, Washington's playbook could deliver a Japan-style zombie economy for decades to come. So despite evaporating jobs, soaring bankruptcies, houses reserved for the six-figure crowd, and grocery prices that make breakfast a luxury, we haven't even seen the main show. When the recession hits full on, we know exactly what will happen. Because the modern government recession playbook has become set in stone, a set of suicidal policies that will make the recovery as slow and as feeble as possible, while draining the blood from the economy, potentially delivering decades of stagnation. The standard recession story goes like this. When central bank interest rate manipulation crashes the economy, it sends unemployment soaring into the millions, and it fills food kitchens across America. Already happening. This understandably leads to deafening calls for action, for the government to do something, anything, to ease the pain. Not really happening yet. A cynic might think it's intentional. Make the pain bad enough and people will beg to be commanded. At that point, the crisis industrial complex, nice, swings into action. First up is scapegoating. Pretending the recession came out of the blue. They tried that. Or if nobody believes that, grabbing any headline they can find to crash blame how it was the supply chains. They tried that. Or too much online shopping. They tried that. Or greedy grocery stores. They're doing that right now. Greedflation is back in the news cycle. Or the classic speculators. Haven't had that one yet. Alas, the scapegoating is just setting the stage. Because instead of getting out of the way and letting the economy recover, greedy grocers and all, governments lunge for those calls to do something, like a cokehead at a White House party. And ever since the Great Depression, do something has meant two things. First, cut interest rates as fast as possible, preferably forever. Second, expand federal spending as much as humanly possible. The problem is both of these actually hurt recovery. In fact, do them enough and you stop recovery altogether. To see why, consider why the recession's happening in the first place. Because money was too cheap for too long, funding a bunch of crappy businesses called malinvestment. And by the way, it wasn't money being too cheap for too long. It was currency being too cheap for too long. There is a difference. Okay? When the Fed raised rates, those malinvestments started liquidating. And when they liquidate in a cluster, we call it a recession. At which point, the correct thing to do is to accelerate the liquidation, to kill off the zombie malinvestments fast and free up resources for a new crop of healthy companies. This means the Fed's playbook of free money, currency, actually gets in the way of recovery. It throws a lifeline to the malinvestments and their billionaire founders, letting them keep hogging trillions in resources courtesy of cheap loans. Meanwhile, the government spending piles on. Remember the goddess mentioned earlier, we're going to be borrowing another 1.5 T this quarter. Just saying. hogging yet more trillions of dollars and the resources it buys to hog yet more from the productive sector, say to rebuild racist overpasses using construction workers and steel that could have been building a factory. In short, the productive economy was whipsawed during the boom bust, and now in the recession, it is starved. Incidentally, this is exactly what Japan has been doing for 30 years now, essentially running the recession playbook all the time, with sky high government spending paired with near zero interest rates. This has given the long suffering Japanese people 30 years of zombie economics as the economy crawls along while the country racks up a comical 1.3 quadrillion with a Q yen of public debt. That is roughly 264% of GDP, equivalent to 62 trillion with a T in US terms. Wow. That's impressive, zombie, right there. Okay? This recession strangle is about to become highly topical. And there's a great 2014 book by Jim Grant on the Forgotten Depression of 1921 that walks it through. 1921 is interesting because it's the last time the US government actually fixed a recession the old fashioned way by accelerating it, not stopping it, giving, as Grant puts it, the last government unmedicated recession. In 1921, Washington actually cut government spending and raised rates, the exact opposite of what they do today. The idea was to quickly purge the bad apples, the malinvestments, while reducing the government's take so resources and staff were freed up for recovery. And that's exactly what happened. After a crash that was by many measures worse than the Great Depression, including the worst deflation in 140 years, within a year, 1 year, the U.S. economy came roaring back, ushering in a decade of growth we now call the Roaring Twenties. Contrast this with the 2008 crisis, which was nowhere near the Great Depression. Yet it took almost 4 years to regain the pre-crash level, followed by anemic growth for almost a decade, until Donald Trump finally cut taxes and got businesses producing again. If not for Trump, we too could have been looking at a few Japan-style lost decades. While we didn't get 30 lost years, Trump interrupted that with lower taxes, we certainly did get Japan's zombie-style debt. Since 2008, the national debt has risen by 25 trillion with the T dollars in just 15 years. That debt interest will be yet another albatross on the economy as it grows deficits for decades to come. We can see the slow motion crash right in front of our eyes, the jobs, the bankruptcies, the near double-digit falls in real family income. And we know exactly how Washington will respond. Bigger deficits, more spending, and rate cuts that will deliver an anemic recovery and a progressive zombie economy taking us down the road of Japan toward a society that crushes the prospects of the young. Unfortunately, Washington's response won't just crush the young, it will crush everybody. Because unlike Japan, we have out of control inflation that will only get worse with recession fueled deficits and interest rate cuts. Meaning, when the recession comes, Washington will have outdone Japan, delivering a zombie economy to crush the young, plus enough inflation to impoverish everyone else. American exceptionalism. Just gotta love it.
We're number one. Number one.
Just gotta love it. That is where we are in that regard. And in case you missed the news, though I'm pretty sure most of you pay attention to the numbers here, in case you missed the news, gold is at $19.96 and 20 cents right now, which is not bad. Silver is at $23.22. Platinum at $934, palladium at $1,114, and rhodium at $38.50. Metals are still on sale. Yes. Pick them up and bring them home. In other news, this week and last week, regional hamburger was on sale too. So we canned up 21 freaking quarts of hamburger the past 2 days. Happy, happy days, that is. And we picked up the first 20 bags of cranberries for the year. So there will be cran apple butter and cranberry rum sauce and cranberry ketchup and cranberry mustard and cran cowboy candy and cran orange bacon sauce and a few other things are going to be happening in the kitchen of Shea Hard Rock. Okay. This is going to be good. The cranberries are just always good. You know,
We do own bugs. That's the name of our truck. Uh,
but that is where we are. Things are really kind of looking a little sketchy in the economic department. It looks like the feds are going to have a little bit of problem the next time they decide to have a little meeting and start talking about things. Because a whole lot of numbers are being studiously ignored by the media. And a whole lot of numbers are studiously being ignored by the Fed, or reports are coming out late with no explanation whatsoever. And a whole lot of numbers are just kind of disappearing from federal government websites. Well, there's not much new about that. But that's the thing, is you got to look at the stuff that these people try very hard not to talk about at all. And that would include our economy. Because right now, the astroturfing going on out there in social media is a little bit ridiculous. In the last week, I have seen people definitively and authoritatively stating that there is no open border, that no terrorists are getting into the United States at all because DHS released a report that said they identified about 150 terrorists, people of interest on the terrorist watch list. Apparently, because they identified about 150, that means there are no others. Just saying. And the border is entirely, completely, 100% secure. Totally. I was also reading an article today that was showering love on Lord Malarkey and his minions in Mordor on the Potomac because he knows what he's doing in terms of foreign policy. And he knows what he's doing in terms of the economy. And seeing thousands of people saying that when they originally voted for him, they just voted for him because anybody other than Cheeto Hitler, saying that now they genuinely appreciate his depth of knowledge, his statesmanship, his immense economic generosity, yet at the same time prudence, was just mind-boggling. Seriously mind-boggling. It is very interesting to note in these massive astroturfing campaigns when you're observing one, the way the thumbs ups and the upvotes are just flying. And if anybody sane tries to get in on this conversation with actual links to actual government sources or news stories, they get the down votes and the down arrows to oblivion until they disappear. It's also interesting to note how dozens and dozens and dozens of different people use exactly the same verbiage to make the same point in multiple places online. Very fascinating. Kind of makes you wonder where all these people come from. I believe the term for them in the gaming world is NPCs.
is that like a bot?
Yeah, it's like a bot. You know, like the shopkeeper when you come around the corner in The Legend of Zelda or something that always says the same thing to you. Those people. Very, very strange things are happening in the online world these days. And for anybody who follows Jim Cramer, I'm sure you noticed that today we got the bad news because Jim Cramer tweeted out on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, then everybody needs to stop panicking because we are not in World War III. Yep. So there you have it. I mean, we are now obviously doomed. Just saying, we are now obviously doomed here. So the best thing the goddess can tell you at this point is unbank thyself lest thy fiat go poof, and buy many, many precious metals, gold and silver, and not the stupid pieces of paper, physical gold and silver. Because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Bye-bye.
Oh, glad to see you showed up, honey bunny.
Hi, honey bunny.
She apparently got banned from X about 2 weeks ago.
How the heck did you manage to get banned from X, or do we even want to know?
Yeah. Joe Biden says, thanks, hot lady. He'll be here to sniff your hair later. Jean-Francois, Atlas Shrugged is indistinguishable from current news.
With a good and generous side helping of 1984.
Yeah. And Brave Blue World. Yeah, she got the 1984 already, too. Yeah, honey bunny, it done precipitated precipitously here. I mean, oh no, it looks beautiful. It's just trying to get anything done is terrible. I think snow is aesthetically gorgeous. Makes everything looks very, very pretty. Unfortunately, it makes it somewhat difficult to get things accomplished. Right now, it's 17 degrees, and the roads are to a great extent black ice at the moment, I imagine. They were starting to dry out a bit, but there was still a lot of wet patches in town. So, yeah, you better, Joe. If you were really Joe Biden, yes. Of course, that means Kamala Harris. I don't know. The question is, who's the person after Kamala? That's who they really want. Okay. But anyhow, so say Dave came by today. We had a nice lunch. Thank you, Dave. And he gave us a Falcon so that we have a Falcon detector here. And we talked a lot about his the situation sampling at his mine down south of here, where hopefully we'll get some work done here in a few weeks. So anyhow, we are in a bit of a holding pattern here when it comes to actually doing anything on current projects, but we are testing some stuff. Let me move that back here a minute. Oh my goodness, life is so complicated. I've got to readjust the background. Let's see if I can make it. Oh, it's all these obstacles. It's difficult. I succeeded. So, before dihydrogen monoxide turned to a solid last week, we were able to do some tests. We took 70 pounds of an assayed material that had been pulverized in the Stutenroth, ran it through the little mini sluice, put it in, the tailings went into a bucket, then the overflow of the bucket went into a tub, the overflow of the tub went into a basin, we settled all this stuff out, had everything assayed. Well, actually, we had the head grade assay. Eva smelted the concentrates from the sluice. And then the other three things, we took 500 grams of each, put them in bottle rolls with Eco Goldex, rolled them for about 3 or 4 days, then had them assayed. And what was kind of funny was all the tailings only had 13% of the official head grade. The sluice recovered 38% of the official head grade, leaving 49% missing, which leads me to believe this assay is probably not accurate, not representative of that sample. And other possibilities include that the gold was so fine that even with all of this, about half of it floated away, which meant that we were actually doing this with Eco Goldex out on the pad, we would get it very quickly. On the other hand, we did this with water. Another possibility would be crystal lock. In other words, the gold was in these crystals so tightly that we couldn't get to it with the solution. Or this head grade is out of whack. My guess is head grade's probably out of whack because these are much bigger samples. But this is a bit concerning because if you cut this in half, that means it'd be pretty tough to make a profit on that. So, anyhow, that's basically our stuff. No, this is a Falcon detector, and it works for very small gold. You know, gold in the neighborhood of, oh, come on. Good Lord. Smaller than that. So about like that. It'll pick up a little chunk of gold like that. And it doesn't have much area or volume that it detects in, but it's extremely sensitive to that. Well, that's the question, is exactly what's happening, Honey Bunny. We'll need to do some more testing. Among other things, this is still here, still in Eco Goldex. If it's crystal lock, then over time, this should go up. And the idea is, no, not for seeking gold in solution. It's for seeking very fine gold in things like rock and stuff like that.
Sand.
What's that in mesh? Oh, it'll probably find a single particle down below 10 mesh if you get it right on there.
But it's got to be right on there.
And so you would be using it to detect and rock in place and things like that. If you saw Mount Baker's recent video where he was showing, oh, there's a little fleck of gold there, and that's the sort of thing that it should be able to do, to detect, which an ordinary metal detector would be pretty useless in a situation like that. So this test is actually still ongoing in a way in a few weeks, because now we're in no hurry whatsoever. We'll put in a little more Eco Goldex, continue stirring it, and then about a month, we'll take the best sample and do another sample to the lab. Yeah, exactly, Honey Bunny. It could be used for that. The Mount Baker thing, I'm pretty sure that regulators are involved, or at least suspected of showing up something, because they've gone to a great deal of effort to cross their T's, dot their I's, and everything like that. Oh yeah, yeah. These things are pretty. These Falcons are pretty good for the real small stuff, and we'll probably use it over at Dave Van's mind when we're looking there too. Looking at the situation out there, we've been spending a little more time with our preparations, and I'm going to start evaluating what locations I can go to packing and which ones I can't nowadays. And things like that to try and get prepared for more uncertain times. But I say we got a whole bunch of things
On a
to
bright
do.
note, perhaps if many people start wandering around packing, the crazy people will decide to move.
And let's see what else. Got that. Oop, I forgot to call them today. And let me write a note down. Okay. Anyhow, well, the one thing I was concerned about, Honey Bunny, with Jason's situation there, is the methodology of transporting the ore out of from the working face to the portal seems a bit cumbersome. And I think that's going to really bottleneck them. So I packed dirt into the cracks in the rocks to try and keep them from continuing to settle and stuff, which under the circumstances probably provided a fair amount of stability, because there's a muck pile right there. So I suggest, I think it's about as stable as I can get it without doing a lot of work, which it certainly couldn't do. So I suspect that it will still be there when we come back. It may plug up for a while this winter because just the snow may bury it. And I'm not sure how much water may try and run down into it during the spring, anytime that there's rain or melting snow or whatever. But again, there's not anything I could really do about it anyhow. So we're just going to leave it for now. And then next spring, well, don't forget the 2 years for permitting, Chris. According to Jim, that's what the Forest Service is running right now, about 2 years to get permits. Okay. Well, I wanted to leave it open to vent, and it would have been, it's much bigger than a bucket, And so say, we shall see what we shall see. Done what I can. No sense worrying about it. Got other stuff to worry about. It's now off the list. Say, well, we'll see what happens on that, Honey Bunny. I can also see it working into cracks and breaking things up even worse. I don't know. Again, no control. Not going to worry about it. I have a plan. I don't know. Then it would become a endangered species environment. So the other thing I'm thinking of doing next spring when we can get back there, well, it'll be summer. Probably sometime in June, like mid to late June, before we can get back up there. I suspect that the the zone that they were advancing along outcrops on the hillside in a spot very, very close by. I mean, a few tens of feet that I can uncover and get some samples from quickly and very safely. And yeah, exactly, Jean-Francois. It depends on your bureaucrat, honey bunny. So that would make things a lot easier than trying to open that particular location up. If things looked good, we might advance, put another opening in the hillside, which we can control, tunnel in, and then go over and intercept the existing workings. We'll just have to play it by ear. I will say this: Eva is very non-happy about the thought of me going in that hole. She's been having bad dreams, and I take Eva's intuition quite seriously.
And I have the same bad feeling about the hole up by the Discovery Cabin.
That's interesting.
That whole thing gives me a really bad feeling. Not happy camper.
Well, I know on the upper hole you were worried about the fungus. Anything else?
Nothing I prefer to talk about on camera.
Oh.
I already told you the nature of my dreams. One of them was about the Discovery Cabin that resulted in you being dead. The other two, were about the hole down below that resulted in you being dead.
Yeah. So.
No desire for you to be dead.
Oh, man. So, anyhow, I say we shall see what we shall see next summer. Until then, not going to worry about it for now. There's also 2 other locations up there in general that we know about that need to have some more work done on them. And then we've got Dave's mine that we're looking at. So we'll say we got a lot of stuff. Also, next season, theoretically, Jeff Kablock will be here. He's got several mines that he could use some help with. So next season, there should be a plethora of opportunities. And we shall see what we shall see. But for now, we're pretty much in a holding pattern, doing a little laboratory testing. And yeah, that's pretty much Eva's opinion too, honey bunny. And so I say we've got Dave's mine to look at, and a few other things. May finally get to make our trip to Washington and see the Liberty mine and maybe get that muffle furnace potentially. So there's all kinds of possibilities to keep us quite busy this winter. So we shall see. Ain't us? I'm not sure, honey bunny. We still got 18 watching, so they may be here. I think the pack rats up here are a little cuter than the pack rats down there in Tucson, though. Because the ones up here have a little tuft of fur on the end of their tail, kind of like a kangaroo rat does. But be that as it may, they're always so cute and always so freaking destructive. Yeah, well, the annoying thing about Eva, honey bunny, is she's quite often right for no discernible reason. It gets very annoying. It's like, no, that's not possible. Then why is it happening?
Like with the thing with bugs and the fuel gauge.
Yeah.
That was just funny.
Yep. Yeah, like bugs in the fuel gauge. You know,
Yeah, you should tell them about that.
I forget the exact details, although I know you said that it was you were, what was it, starting the engine?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, you know, try turning the engine on. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Ignition switch is on. The power is to the system. Turn the engine on, the gauges started to work. You know, I have no clue, honey bunny. Don't recall it one way or the other. So I say when she has a strong feeling, I give it very strong credence. No, I have not, Jeff. I don't know. Really? Jean-Francois does not know what a pack rat is.
Jean-Francois does not know what a pack rat is.
Yep.
They are adorable. I don't know why Bear doesn't like them. They're really, really cool creatures.
Genus of mammals, yes. Okay. There's a good picture right there. Control C. Control V. I think it's too long. Assay. Just go pack rat, mammal. Pack rats.
It's also a slang term for people who hoard things. For a good reason.
Cross between that and a gray squirrel. Kind of, sort of. The thing about pack rats is they build these big nests.
They're called middens.
Which, yes, I know they're called middens, but if I said the word midden to someone who didn't even know what a pack rat was, it wouldn't be very helpful, would it, little one? So anyhow, these big nests are called middens, and they just keep making them bigger and bigger and bigger.
And they collect things.
And so, I mean, like archaeologists can go back thousands of years and look at things like what kind of vegetation was growing stuff by digging through fossilized pack rat middens. The problems with pack rats is that they're very destructive. They like chewing on wires and building nests and air cleaners and just all kinds of nasty stuff. And as Honey Bunny says, they take cactus parts, like, pads and things like this, and put them around their nests to keep snakes and stuff away. And it can be really inconvenient. They also can carry certain diseases. And like when we're going down the decline in Montana B, the first thing I have to do in a new area in that decline is pretty much put on a mask and everything. I like to do it at end of shift. Clean the pack rat middens, put them in buckets, haul them to surface, dump them, and then we go to camp and I change all my clothes, wash up and everything, and just for safety. Never had a problem, but you only get rabies once, for example.
Hantavirus is the dangerous one because there ain't no cure.
Well, the nice thing about hantavirus is, though, the pack rats usually don't carry it. It's usually deer mice.
Yeah.
So those that when you're clearing out like an attic or something, the mouse droppings can be the greatest danger. And there's no real treatment for hantavirus. You either live or die. And the death rate is something like 30%. Okay. Portable shop vac. Well, only if it'll take, when I'm just doing a cleanup, I think the last one was 12 buckets to advance 6 feet. I'm not talking a little bit. They've been piling it up over a long period of time. Yep. Share screen on your YouTube control panel. There may be, but I don't know. This expand menu, stream, manage, pop out dashboard. Okay. Pop out dashboard doesn't tell me anything. Well, that's just telling me current things. Chat rate is 3. Concurrent viewers 18. Total views 248 already. Okay. But yeah, HEPA filters, things like that.
Spray the darn things down with a 10% bleach.
Yeah, spray the midden down with bleach first. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's no joke. I think they're working on a vaccine for it, but now any vaccine they come up with, I'd be afraid to take anyway. I don't know why. I just, over the last few years, I've become very hesitant, you know. And so anyhow, let's say they're very cute. And
because they only live about 2.5 to 3 years in Montana B, the ones that we met originally had never met people before, so they weren't afraid.
Yeah. Eva was sitting down watching me, and a pack rat comes up and starts looking at her and stuff like that.
Came and sat right next to my knee.
You know, as I say, so they're very cute little creatures, and they're totally innocuous and inoffensive, except they will destroy your frickin' pickup truck. You know? Yeah, I say it's just one of those things. Yeah, probably the best thing, honey bunny, is simply to, you know, spray it down with bleach first and do it. That's about the safest thing, although nothing's safe with stuff like that. But then last I checked, something called life is not safe. Okay, that's not going to do anything there, so I'm just going to have to get that and delete it so I can do something again. So I say pack rats are very cute, and say they're not dangerous in the normal sense of the word. However, the viruses can kill you, and they can destroy your home, your vehicle, or anything else you let them get into.
They're cute.
Honeyway says, feed them seeds and they'll never leave you alone. That's entirely possible.
I love pack rats. I think they're cute.
Yeah, Jimmy, what's up? Yep, Dave is working on a hard rock mine, just south of you a little bit. So I'll probably be seeing you here in a few weeks. We could probably stop in and say hi, see what's up. Jean-Francois says, a few squirrels entirely cleaned out my pear tree with hundreds of pears. My neighbor's house roof was full of stashed pears.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
That would be just about right for squirrels.
Yeah, we had some rock squirrels in our it wasn't even an attic space down there in Tucson. It was just the ceiling space. And I had to terminate them with extreme prejudice. But you have to be very careful because you don't want them dying in the crawl space.
We had
well, not even a crawl space. Yeah. But anyhow, so that's a kind of a pain in the ass. Yeah, they're a pain in the butt, Jean-Francois. Yeah, it'd be nice to see you, Jimmy. Have you had a chance to use that mill since we got it to you? Or is it you've been just too busy? One monstrous groundhog? Okay, I can tell you this. A regular size marble launched from a wrist rocket at 5 feet bounces off a groundhog's skull without killing or stunning the groundhog. Just letting you know. I can tell you this from personal experience. I would suggest arrows.
Groundhogs have very, very hard skulls for rodents.
Oh yeah, but a freaking regular arrow, with just a what do you call that? A field point. It'll go right through it. Yeah, that would be cool. John, train the pack rats to collect nuggets. That would be sweet. Man, you could get a whole herd of them. I don't know, how much do they dig? Not much. You probably want more like ground squirrels
they're
or
not really burrowers.
what do you call them? Prairie dogs. Prairie dogs would be great.
Voles.
I don't know how much voles dig deep. They tend to focus on the surface though, so that would be good because if you got any kind of surface enrichment there, the voles would be good. And
well, those voles kind of like crazy up there atop the hill.
I remember years ago reading an article on varmint hunting, and no, we haven't, Chris. He says that pack rats have been known to collect old coins.
Huh.
Interesting.
Well, I have found plenty of metal items in pack rat middens before.
Yep.
Pack rats are like magpies. They like metal things.
Yeah, exactly, Jimmy. I say we're hoping to take a look at it in a couple 3 weeks. The first look, and go from there. So I say that's the evil plan. Oh, I haven't been able to go fishing for what since your kids were here. I think that was in what?
A couple of months.
June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End of July.
End of July.
When
Okay.
my kids were here.
And but it was so funny to read that article on varmint hunting, because for those of you who don't know, it means shooting things like squirrels and prairie dogs, primarily prairie dogs with high-powered rifles at extended ranges, like 300 yards. So they tend to go for small bullets at very high velocities, like 4,000 feet per second and stuff. And the guy who wrote the article was just so hilarious. He says, the most politically incorrect sport of all time. Using these big rifles to shoot these little teeny creatures and just obliterate them. He says, they have terms like hang time. Oh, yeah. I'll say it. When it comes to politically incorrect sports, I have trouble arguing with that one. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah, that would be pretty good, Jimmy. Maybe we could arrange something on one of our trips down there. That would be cool.
What?
Ice fishing for burbot.
Ooh, yeah.
Yep.
That would be excellent.
And
I would like it if you got some burbot.
Yeah, a 22 Hornet is okay. It would be good for that. But I mean, they got something like a 22 Cheetah at 4,200 feet per second. Or a Ruger 17, which is a 223, neck down to 17 caliber. And yeah, they just zip, they make an ordinary hunting round seem kind of slow by comparison. Yeah. One thing you can be pretty sure of, though, they don't suffer. It'd be like you getting hit with a 105 millimeter howitzer.
Jeez. What is even the point of doing that?
The point of doing it is accuracy. What you're trying to do is hit a small target at long ranges. I mean, you're talking about hitting something this big at 200 to 300 yards. Okay. It's reload the rounds with Nosler Varmageddon bullets.
Armageddon.
Varmageddon. I love it. Oh my goodness. I gotta Google that. Varmageddon. What is a Varmageddon bullet? Anyhow. Armageddon bullets, yes. Made with a lead alloy core, features a copper alloy jacket designed to withstand high velocities yet expand immediately upon impact. Yep, sounds about right. Yeah, it is. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's the opposite of penetrating. Just pow, explode on impact. I mean, when you're firing something at those velocities, well, assuming you got one twist every 1.5 feet, so you got 4,000 feet per second divided by 1.5. You've got it running at, according to this, let's see, 4,000 feet per second, 18-inch for one twist, something like 2,700 revolutions per second times 60. So 160,000 RPM is what they're spinning at. So when that hits something and gets disrupted, the centrifugal force just blows it to pieces.
That's mean.
No, it's not mean. It's very, very, very merciful. I say it's like getting hit with a 105 millimeter howitzer.
Why in the world would you want to use a destructo ray on a poor little pack rat?
Well, not a pack rat. These are prairie dogs.
That isn't bad.
No, they're destructive. They kill cows.
Well,
Cows.
they don't technically kill cows.
Sure they do. They step in the damn holes and break their legs.
That's not the prairie dog's fault. That's the cow's fault for being stupid. We all know how stupid bovines are.
Oh, we're going to try. Sometime we'll probably run into this again. We were coming back from the ranch, and there was a herd of cows at the cattle guard, just packed up there and everything. And when we kind of just very gently made our way through there, I said, "Oh, we should have taken a picture of that, and you could have posted it to the internet." It says, "Yeah, Montana traffic jam, a multi-cow pileup." Oh, so yeah, that she's good with words.
I'm sitting there looking at them. Dinner, next year's dinner.
You know. Well, the other thing is when you got something that small moving that fast, you don't get any ricochets. You know, you don't have any bullets going anywhere. As soon as they hit something, they just go poof. You know. So, it's a very humane sport.
Yeah. Well,
But you don't get much food from it.
I think you and I have very different definitions of what constitutes humane.
Humane means dying quickly and without any pain. In a millisecond, you don't have time to feel anything. And, well, let's see.
Well, I do not believe in killing things for sport.
Well, that's you. Do you believe in killing things for protection? Well, things are going to die. You exist and then you don't within 1/4 of a millisecond. Yep, that's humane. Yep. I say, I don't worry about the field mice killed by harvesting either. Jean-Francois has done the math. The critter being 3 inches thick, it takes about 1/12 of a millisecond at 4,000 feet per second. That's the way it is. It's like we had a saying in the mining business: blasters do not learn by their mistakes. And you don't really remember it either. But anyhow, so that's basically what's going on. I agree, Jean-Francois. But I say it's just one of those things that, politically incorrect is a very good description for it. So let's say hopefully we'll be down there to Dave's mine in a few weeks to take a peeky poo, get some samples, do some stuff, and go from there. Yeah, honey bunny, my second mining job, the manager disappeared for about a month. And when he came back, I asked what happened. And he said he had a niece that was dying from cancer. And the description was pretty unpleasant, And this was like a 13, 14-year-old girl. So there's definitely worse things than being vaporized in milliseconds. Yeah, I say that's a good size to practice with, Jean-Francois. And see how it works. Remember, though, you need to look at the individual particles and see if they're rough or round. If they're real round, they're not going to act the same way as a natural particle would, which would tend to be a flake or something like that. So you might, I don't know, tungsten's pretty tough. You might be able to flatten some of it by putting it on an anvil and whacking it with a hammer, but we shall see what we shall see, huh? No, it's good for practicing how to extract microfine gold because it's got same density. And so it's good for, let's say, for learning how things behave in those systems. Very angular would be good. They may be a ground powder, which would probably tend to be kind of angular. It may have different wetting characteristics, but the density is essentially identical. So there may be some surface tension effects that might be different, not that I'm aware of. And you're going to be trying to use some kind of a surfactant to minimize that anyway. I've used it to do panning and stuff, and it's impossible to separate from the gold. Once you get it mixed in with some gold, you're just screwed. Dave has been shoring it up lately. He's done some sampling and testing and getting some decent results. I can't, of course, tell you anything more than that without his explicit permission. But I say our plan is to go down there, look it over, maybe help him with the sampling a bit, and giving our opinions as to what looks like a good method of exploitation. And then, from there, we'll see what kind of mutually beneficial situations might be available, and we can go from there. That's for sure, honey bunny. So we will see Jimmy very early stages at this point, but he figures to have the last of the timbering done this week, and then we'll be going in and helping him work on sampling and things like that, and go from there. Fine tungsten powder will burn, huh? Oh, how hard is it to get it to ignite, honey bunny? I didn't know it was terribly reactive. I don't know if there's a specific flocculant to aggregate very fine gold. I know I've used flocculants to clarify the water when I was doing a recirculation system. It didn't seem to negatively affect the recovery, but I don't know if anyone's done a specific test on that. I'm sure that they have. Yeah, he's working it alone right now, Jimmy. But I know that certain flotation reagents will float it very well on, in the bubbles. And so there is some surface characteristic modifications that can be done. Yeah, mercury acts like a flocculant. Yeah. Grease, yeah, oils would tend to aggregate it. It worked. Bacon grease worked on one time I did just for fun. Seemed to do a pretty good job of collecting the gold, actually. One thing I was wondering is if someone could create say you took like a felt material and used some kind of an oil-based substance that was soaked into the felt and then ran your slurry over that, how well would it do at capturing the fine gold? And then you could take your felt, wash, just give it a gentle rinse with clean water, and then wash it in a solvent. You should be able to get your gold out of it, and that might work effectively the same way, but the possible negative with grease, honey bunny, would be surface tension, and I'm not the expert enough to know what the issue would be with surface tensions and stuff. That's why I was thinking of getting oil adsorbed into a felt or something as opposed to a pure grease. Now, what I did was I took bacon grease, put it in a pan, and just panned it, then did a gentle rinse, and then washed the pan out with gasoline. Seemed to work pretty good. I would try lanolin, wool fat. It's been used in the past. I mean, sheep, sheep skin with the hair on it, pelt, I guess, has been used for thousands of years. say I would try lanolin as a possibility. Say I know it'll work, but I haven't tried optimizing anything.
I liked the bacon grease.
Yeah, exactly, Jason and the Golden Fleece. Yep.
That's where it came from.
So as I say, there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah, another thing you can do is take a magnetic material, fine magnetite, 100 mesh, something like that. If you get the same material that they make magnetic signs out of, it's got a very tightly spaced series of linear magnetic domains. And when you sprinkle a magnetite on it, it forms a series of lines like corduroy, only tighter spaced. And that would make an excellent sluice bed. And again, once you're done with that, if you've put a piece of, the equivalent of like saran wrap over top of it, then you can just peel it off, or you can just wash and scrape the magnetic material off of it, and then you can do a magnetic separation and leave the gold laying there.
Bizarre and unaccountable, right?
Yeah.
Not surprising, but bizarre and unaccountable.
You're correct, honey bunny. It is. Exactly. It's like a magnetic riffle. And it's cheap. Yeah, magnetic material is inexpensive. You can either buy a magnetic sign already made, or you can go to the people who make them and just buy the material. It's relatively inexpensive. Like, I don't know what it was, $8 a square foot or something like that.
Somebody finally got around to asking some of those people in London if they knew what the "from the river to the sea" chant meant.
Yeah.
They correctly guessed that the sea was the Mediterranean, had no idea where the river was, and said, well, chants and rhetoric aren't necessarily reflective of anyone's real beliefs.
Yeah, obviously, because they don't have any. Yeah, I would say you need to orient the magnetic material correctly so that the riffles are across the flow. I don't know. I've used a similar effect. Sounds like a plan, Jimmy. I can certainly ask. Little gasoline in the filter. See? Yeah, once you get an oil, a thick oil or a grease or something like that. I used bacon grease. Then all you do is you just take the grease and dissolve it in a thin solvent. I just use gasoline because I had some and it's easy. And then the gold settles to the bottom. You just drain the liquid off of it. It's just sitting there left in your pan. Pretty simple. So it seemed to work pretty effectively. Again, I have a lot more ideas than I have time to test them all. Yeah, exactly, Jean-Francois. I do think it is eddy currents, Jean-Francois, but I don't know. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to skin a cat. The question is, what's the most efficient way? Yeah, but I thought it would be just hilarious to try it. And yeah, it was pretty funny and worked reasonably well. Kind of not surprisingly well considering, but it was kind of funny. The trick is you need to make sure that you don't lose any of that fat, because any of that fat that gets lost in the slurry stream is just going to take gold with it. you know. So that's why I was thinking of like having a felt. So, I say there's lots of things I'd like to try. Haven't had a chance to do much in the last couple of years because we've been working on Montana B, which does not have gravity separatable gold to any significant extent. You know, it's very, very small percentage of the gold is plausibly gravity extractable, and yet the vast majority is plausibly leachable. So, such is the situation. If we're getting back into a gravity separatable material, then we might try the um, grease thing again, the magnetic riffles again. I've got a wavetable design of mine that is that works on stuff like that, and yeah, say I've got a number of things that work, you know, and it's just what works best, and things like throughput, you know, for a given investment, maintenance, and operating effort, what is the throughput and what is the recovery percentage, and things like that. Chris is a big jig fan. I've never used one, so I have no opinion, you know. So let's say there's a lot of ways of going about it, and I'm sure that as with most everything else, it's somewhat ore dependent. Yeah, they are pretty efficient. You know, there's numbers of different things, and sometimes if you get the right setup, you know, the ore is, you know, really good for something. You can have something really simple that works really well, like a spiral concentrator. Um, that's a pretty simple device, no moving parts, you know. But usually in a real life situation, you have a wide variety of gold particles that you're dealing with, and so no individual technique is going to do really, really well, you know. Yeah, a Denver jig, exactly, Jean Francois. Um, but you know, say leaching generally works really well on fine free gold. Uh, Gravity works on larger gold that's freed from matrix. In between there, you got a wide variety of things, and a lot of it has to do with cost. For example, heap leaching is, I don't know, Chris, would you say heap leaching is probably the least efficient method of getting gold from hard rock? Oh, you moved? Okay, Jimmy, let me write this down. Come on.
Moved?
Where are you now, Jimmy? 559 7638. Cardwell. Yeah, not too far away. As long as it's not Whitehall. I hear Whitehall sucks. Yeah, it has the lowest recovery percentages, but heap leaching is by far the cheapest per ton, and so it tends to be used on lower grade ores where that lack of efficiency doesn't cost you too much money, but the low cost saves you a fair amount of money. Somewhere in the tenth of an ounce range is generally where they start going to tank leaching and such, or some other method, because when you're heap leaching, you're generally just crushing. You may just be like 1 inch minus or inch and a half minus, something like that. You want to minimize your production of real fines because that then creates layers, impermeable layers in the heap and things like that. And so your crushing costs are low. Your material handling costs are generally low. But your recoveries are low, 60%, 70%. If you're getting 70% on a heap leach, you're doing pretty darn good. But the mine I worked at, our entire mining cost was $1 a ton. Our processing cost was $5 a ton. Okay. And so that's, really cheap. Just the pulverization cost, had we gone to anything else, would have probably cost us $10 a ton right there. So you have to look at your individual situation and say, okay, does the increase in efficiency with this ore give me so much money that it more than pays for all of the extra processing costs? And to do that, again, just kind of rule of thumb, somewhere around a tenth of an ounce per ton. And that's why you see all these different things. And it's not unusual to have mines with multiple things. You'll have a heap leach over here, you'll have a tank leach over there. And as they're mining it, the high grade goes one way and the low grade goes another way. Not uncommon at all. Again, you're using hybridization. You have different methods for different materials that behave differently. And so that's just part of the whole deal of trying to optimize it. And this is one thing where big mines have a big advantage over small mines, in that if it costs them an extra $2 million or $10 million to do something, to add something that improves their efficiency by 5%, oh yeah, that's going to pay off after the first 1 or 2 million tons. Absolutely. First mine I worked at, open pit, when I left there, we were moving 14,000 tons a shift, with including maintenance, engineering, lab, management, the whole 9 yards, maybe 28 people. And we were moving 14,000 tons a shift. So that's high productivity.
Oh, good Lord.
And man, whenever we got anything over a tenth of an ounce to the ton, it's like, wow, that's some real high grade stuff. We didn't have enough to worry about extra processing techniques, but yeah. But that's it. It's all these things, all these variables have to be taken into account to get you a good idea of what approximates your best solution. And things like mine life. If you've got 100,000 tons, well, 14,000 tons a day, your mine life isn't going to be too long. You don't have much time to make up your capital expenditures. So you're going to engineer it for a much smaller throughput, and you're pretty much going to have a higher grade too. So I say these are all the sort of things that are that need to be taken into account. That's why I made that calculator. If anyone here is not aware of the calculator I have up on my Wix site and want to look at it, just say something and I'll go fetch the link to it. But it's okay. You just punch in the raw numbers and it does all those calculations in the background and gives you an economic estimate at this throughput, this mining rate, this milling rate, this cost for mining, this cost for milling, the ore body of this size at this grade with this extraction recovery and this, gold recovery and stuff. What makes sense and what doesn't. Okay. That's why, because there's, I don't know, I think it was like 26 variables or something there that are involved in that calculator, something of that nature. And that way you can just punch in raw numbers and play what if games, which is very, very convenient. It's an extremely important thing. And it's very difficult to determine cheaply, honey bunny. In most cases, it's done by drilling. And drilling is not a cheap thing. So you got a lot of drilling and assaying. Unfortunately, Rock's not here. Assuming you're just doing recirculation drilling, reverse circulation drilling, used to be like $10 a foot to hire a crew to come in and do a reasonable amount of it, 5,000 feet. It's going to cost you about $10 a foot. So at that rate, what's that, 50 holes at 100 feet deep, 5,000, 100 foot. So to drill 50 holes, 100 feet deep, it's going to cost you 50 grand for the drilling. Every sample, which should be like every 5 or 10 feet, you're going to have another assay cost and things like that. And I say, all this stuff adds up real quickly, and it's in front, way in front of you making any money. Which is why mid-size to large mines work in an entirely different way than your micro-scale mining. Micro-scale mining, the purpose is to get into profitability, operational profitability as soon as possible. With reasonable restrictions, And so that's, a whole different situation. Try and get in there, start moving some stuff, start processing stuff, start making some money, and then, go from there, which means you need to, one nice thing about old mines is you can get in, you actually have someone who's put a hole in the bedrock. So you can now see the bedrock. You can now sample the bedrock, and you can see what your ore body looks like, what the size is, get samples along it, things like that. And so you wind up with a lot of ability to acquire the samples and do some testing a lot less costly than if you just had plain ground. Not unless you had a good outcrop of some really good stuff where you can follow it on surface for a couple 100 feet and it's pretty consistently 2 feet wide and it's running all good grade. Okay. Yeah, you got enough to get started now. Is it common in your area to get mineral rights when you buy land? Land out was homesteaded by the government and kept the mineral rights. If it was homesteaded, the government kept the mineral rights. That is correct. You needed to file a mining claim on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to hope that whoever homesteaded it also filed a mining claim.
Yeah, and so they can also they can transfer the mineral rights. Say you homesteaded it and you filed a mining claim and you or around here, for example, you've got all these patent demining claims. They're now private property, essentially, that have mineral rights, but you can sell the mineral rights without selling the surface rights. So you could detach them that way. So you simply have to check. There's no rule of thumb that lets you know. You have to have somebody who's qualified to do it, search the information and give you an opinion on that. And so that's it. You just have to look. It should be easily locatable in the standard records the county holds. You know, but again, I would not use me to do that search and say, oh, Keith said that they were or weren't or whatever, and therefore it's a done deal. No. Okay. I could take a look and say, I found this. I don't believe so, Jimmy, but I'm not sure. Okay. I am not sure. Yeah, it's kind of a specialized thing, Chris. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They don't have the expertise to do it competently, so they don't want to do it at all. Yeah, it makes sense. Oh. Yeah, water rights are also often quite critical. If you're in the desert Southwest, quite often the water rights have been sold to towns and cities. Okay. That's very common. Yep. Because the cities will go out hundreds of miles away and buy up water rights over, half a county so they can drill it and pump it, So, yeah, you have to look at things like that. You have no access right. No, Jimmy, and if I did, I couldn't tell you anyhow at this point because I don't have his permission. Okay. But that's it. It's one of those things that he's a pretty easy guy to deal with, so I can chat with him and we can go from there and see what's up. Oh. Yeah, when it comes to land rights and stuff, it can get really complex. Of course, honey bunny. I was lucky in that my mother instilled in me the idea my business is my business, financial stuff of the household, that was not any of our business. And we didn't ask, she didn't say. Okay. It, led me to a certain natural thing. On the other hand, I'm naturally loquacious. I like to talk about stuff. So between the two, I have to maintain a balance, but it's easier for me than for some people. But yeah, it's like your business is your business, and what do you want me to tell other people, or what do you not want me to tell other people? That sort of thing. And as a general rule, it's better to be too closed-mouthed than too open-mouthed, because you can't, once you've put the information out, you can't bring it back. or at least you have no guarantee of being able to bring it back. If you made a mistake, you just made a mistake and you're screwed. So it's better to be cautious first, and so just be careful what you say. Sometimes I'm really in a quandary because I want to put out information in videos or whatever, but I have to be careful what I put out, Say it's frustrating, but that's the way it is. That's life. And of course, what's really funny is when there was somebody, I guess she was a porn star, and she did porn. Was it 240?
Mia Khalifa.
No, I didn't. We don't need to name any names, but she did like 250 porn videos in 250 days, something like that. And now she's complaining that she can't get those videos off the internet. Well, you probably shouldn't have signed a contract to make videos for somebody, My goodness, what did you think was going to happen? Well, that's another advantage to having 12 people watching or whatever. I mean, we've been up to 20 today, I think is the most I've seen. And that makes it less likely that a malevolent actor is going to, see anything. Most of the people here, I think, are pretty good people and honest and, don't want to hurt anybody, et cetera, like that. And it's great. It's like a family, but you know how families can be sometimes too. So you just say, don't put anything up on the screen or whatever that you don't want everyone to be able to see. I'm not sure what my current stats are. Let's go to the let's see, manage videos, analytics. How's my analytics doing here? My channel got 1,530 views in the last 28 days. So 16,530 divided by 28 equals 590 views a day, which a long time ago I would have been going, wow. Now that's fairly standard sort of thing. Last 28 days, where does gold come from? It's gotten 3,000 views. Let's see, what's our lifetime numbers here? Lifetime numbers. Yeah, we had that peak when in May. Yeah, 6,321 views May 3rd. Total views right now, 2,554,321 views so far. And a total official 23.2 thousand subscribers. 23,249. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we got 20 people watching the live stream. So there's clearly a lot of people that are, I don't know what you would call them, inactive subscribers or past subscribers, I suspect. And I say, I like it that way. It was so funny when Eva's son, hey, Mr. Virtue. Yeah, it's quite late. We're getting ready to call it a night, I guess. Well, and it's not like we're doing anything flashy or whatever either. I mean, people have questions. We answer the questions, kind of update them on what we're doing recently and things like that. But that's not the sort of flashy thing that gets people excited. On the other hand, people like Jean-Francois, etc., they start out, they're actually interested in something and start asking questions. And, um, you know, that drives a really good conversation and like that. So I say, I like what I'm doing. When Eva's son Dylan was here last, he's like, you really ought to monetize your channel and this, that, and the other. And looking at some stuff, it's like, yeah, we probably could make a lot of money, but we're not worried about it. If it becomes important, I probably could monetize the channel then. I change the methodology and the format a bit and things like that and go for it. But there's no necessity for it, and we're enjoying what we're doing.
I think it would be a bad idea.
I wonder what that one's doing. I need to make an appointment with the dermatologist and see what this little thing is. But anyhow, I agree, Graham. And see, you've been on here for like 3 hours. You're one of the first people here. It's now 3 hours and 26 minutes, 45 seconds. Yeah, and I mean, I can understand why people do that. Yeah, Mr. Virtue, it got precipitated real fast here. So
the most we might consider doing is putting super chat on there someday, just because.
We got what's the name? We got Dave that has a mine down south in southern in Montana here that we may go to in the next few weeks and take samples. He says that that particular mine is accessible most of the year. There's some times where there's like snow or mud, but in general, it's pretty easy to get to. And so we plan on doing some work there. Plus, there's some testing we're doing and this and that and the other. So there's a lot of things to do, but it's not going to be like the last few months have been, where it's all the time field work. And yeah, I say I like what we're doing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if I was much busier, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be back in a grind. With what we do here, somebody has a question, we can answer it. We can talk about it. We can get input from other people. Like the gentleman earlier who was interested in stripping charcoal that was absorbing gold from an Eco Goldex solution. Immediately, a couple of people came on with some useful information and stuff. And I say, I just enjoy that part of it, the community here. It's cool. I also enjoy meeting people occasionally. People come driving through the area and, hey, I'm going to be, wherever on this date or whatever. Was it Leto, Idaho that we had Christmas with there? Was it Christmas dinner? Yeah.
It was Christmas dinner.
Yeah. Leto, Idaho was, he's a long haul trucker, and he just happened to be in Tucson, like Christmas Eve. And
so we had him over for Christmas dinner.
Oh, you're in Tucson? Because he's like, I'm in Tucson, I was like, well, you want to come on over for Christmas dinner? Well, nothing special. I mean, we don't do anything really fancy or whatever. And it was great. You know, we had a good time. He looked up some stuff on the internet and he showed me some things and asked my opinions. And we had a nice little visit. And life is fun. That would be great, Jean-Francois. You know? And
Is
from
Jean-Francois planning to come down to Montana?
possibly. He's got some.
Bring old Canadian coins.
She wants old
The
Canadian
time with
coins.
George and Edward and Elizabeth when she was young.
Yeah.
No Chuck number 3.
No Chuck 3 coins. Nope. They will get smeltified or something.
Chuck number 3 is not good.
But anyhow, yeah, I say that's what I mean right there. You know, Jean-Francois, hey, you know, I'm going to be in Alberta sometime. Don't know exactly when. I'd like to try and swing through your place. It's like, sounds great.
Well, heck, we could always meet him halfway in Great Falls.
Oh, Alberta's a little farther than that, I imagine.
Yeah.
You know? So, but yeah, we're, what was it? About 3 hours south of the Coots border crossing. Jean-Francois says, I keep the junk silver. Sorry, Eva. Ooh.
I knew he'd keep the junk silver.
Uh,
He's not stupid. But what I would like from up there is some colorized coins. The modern, you know, the funny little colorized things that they make. And I like toonies.
she likes loonies, not toonies.
I like loonies and toonies.
Toonies. Yeah, that's right.
Even when they're not silver, they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
But no Chuck 3.
Chuck the 3. Yeah. Yeah, he's not quite the embarrassment that Joe Biden is,
He's not
nor
quite
the
embarrassment
danger
that Sox is.
that Joe Biden is. But nevertheless.
He's on a par with Sox.
Whoa. Graham says we find Queen Victoria coins while detecting.
Oh, you lucky bugger.
Man,
that would make me so happy.
man. That's way cool.
That would make me so freaking happy if I ever found something like that.
Yep. So, anyhow, anybody got any subjects or whatever here? It's 3.5 hours. Probably ought to be about time to. Yeah, exactly, Graham. Yeah, late 1800s, I think, when Queen Victoria was, what, like 1850 to 1880 or something like
Somewhere
that.
around there, Victoria and Albert. And by the way,
Whoa.
Jean-Francois, I would gladly trade you some old American junk for some old Canadian junk.
A detectorist acquaintance of Jean-Francois has found a AD 400 silver coin in a local municipal park near Montreal.
Oh, wow.
They were used in the early days of the colony, huh?
That's a little bizarre.
I think so, Jeff. Roman silver coin, AD 400.
That would be amazing.
Wow.
No, I mean, if Jean-Francois wants to trade some old American junk for some old Canadian junk, we can do that.
She said we can trade junk for junk. Oh, man. Now we're talking about trading junk. I'm not sure what's going on here.
I play with Jean-Francois' junk, and he can play with my junk, too.
I don't know what's going on here, but I think the conversation has spiraled completely out of control.
Oh, that's your imagination.
He says the Canadian stuff is 80% silver. It's Canuck junk silver.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
So we figure out what the math is, and I will trade you American junk at 90% for Canadian junk that's 80%. We can do math. Math is a thing.
Victoria passed after 1900, huh? Yeah, I know, Chris. But we are minors, right? I will say this: I have a lot of respect for the late Queen Elizabeth II. I thought she was a very classy lady and fulfilled her obligations with grace, dignity, and determination.
Too bad her kids were such yo-yos.
Yeah, unfortunately, the kids, as usual, when it's too easy growing up, you're usually not that great. So anyhow. Oh.
And yes, I know
Let's
very
see.
well that Canadian is 80%, not 90. I'm not silly.
Yeah, exactly, Jean-Francois. She was the only Queen of England I ever heard of, I ever knew. Yeah. Yeah, Chucky, a disciple of Klaus Schwab.
Oh, good grief.
Probably.
Truck number 3 is going to be a bad king. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
Apologies, people, but truck number 3 is going to be a bad king.
there's a lot of
Man,
bad
no
leadership
honor.
going on right now, in my opinion. It is a
Elizabeth
sad
should have
state of
passed him
affairs we
over
live
and given
in.
it to William and Kate.
Eva calls him Socks.
Yeah, socks.
Yeah.
Les Trudeau.
Les Trudeau.
Justine Castro. His name is Socks.
Yeah. Anyhow, anything else out there, guys?
Hillary Clinton actually said something I agree with. I think the world's coming to an end.
Okay.
Get this. Hillary Clinton said a ceasefire is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas. And that those demanding a ceasefire now between Israel and Hamas do not understand Hamas. Hillary Clinton has actually said something I agree with.
Yeah. Well, Jean-Francois, the problem with Biden, I agree, he's not the president. I'm not sure who is the president, but it's not somebody that we even think got elected, But the United States has a lot more power to influence the world than Canada does. Nothing against our beloved Canadians here, but the United States just wields a lot more power, and that certainly does not mean we wield it wisely. Okay. Yeah, I think Trudeau is just a narcissist. But anyhow, yeah, you're absolutely right, honey bunny. Well, there's a guy that carries it around carefully all the time, so it's not like he could accidentally push the big red button. According to Honey Bunny, Anshel Rothschild is the president. I have no idea. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else got anything before we call it a night? Oh, Trump made some. He had an effect. That's for sure. As you can see, and at the sudden change after he was out of office, presidents do have an effect. Now, the problem is they don't necessarily have as much effect as they should be able to have. But
That's interesting.
yeah. So, okay. I think I'll call it a night here. And So, it's been a fun evening again, everybody. I appreciate it. And we shall see what we shall see in the coming week. One thing that we're not is bored. So happy prospecting and keep
Oh,
it safe
good
out there.
Lord.
True, honey bunny.